Hello, and welcome to an intro to Anthro with two humans. I'm human number one, John McCray.
And I'm human number two, John Lehr.
And this is the podcast where we reassess what it means to be human. And the title of this episode is Home Sweet Home, A Place to Lay My Weary Bones.
Aww.
so John...
Weary head? Why'd you go weary bones?
Well, I'll get
Lay
to
my
that.
weary head. All right.
So the topic of this episode actually comes to us from our listener, Winnie.
Oh, Winnie.
Yeah.
Thank you, Winnie.
Yeah, thank you. And a few months, actually, it's been more than a few months. I think it was last fall. And Winnie probably doesn't even remember sending this to us. but she sent us a message, and she said, quote, "As a tiny homeowner, I wonder about the evolution of abodes, from necessary shelter to castles to mega mansions to the more economical tiny homes."
Oh, excellent.
Yeah,
Love
that was an excellent question. And I think Winnie was she was responsible for the episode we did on dating and courting. If you remember that one.
Yes, I do.
But I think she didn't intend that to be an episode topic. She had sent us a joke from the New Yorker or the Atlantic about relationships in ancient Egypt. And I mistook that for a request for an episode or for an episode suggestion.
Well, it was a good episode. So.
Know, it was hot. It was hot. Mm-hmm. Relationship stuff. But this one she actually sent to us as an episode idea. So we're finally getting to it.
Okay.
And before we begin, I just want to mention, and this is what you were saying, you were feeling it as well. When I wrote this week's topic, I kept thinking, where did the words "lay my weary bones" come from?
Because lay my weary head to rest. Yeah. Don't you cry no more. Ha!
Yeah. That's exactly which we need to discuss because, first of all, you don't hear the word weary very much anymore.
No. There's a great band, the Weary Boys, a country western band that you and I both like.
Yeah. An alt country band I think they're out of Los Angeles. Usually people will say, they're tired, exhausted, or beat, but you don't hear weary. I don't know. Weary means something more than just physical tiredness.
Yeah, there's a sadness or a brokenness.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Spiritual or something.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
It's not like my feet hurt. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. It's not like I have a crook in my neck.
Yeah,
lay
like
my weary head to rest. Don't you cry no more. Ha! Do.
Yes. So that's fun. It's amazing you come to it too, because that's what, the more I thought about it, it's like it's from the 1976 song "Carry On My Wayward Son" by the band Kansas.
Carry on my wayward son. Have you ever seen that live? Like, have you seen the YouTube video of them?
No, I haven't.
Highly recommend.
Yeah,
They are an odd group of individuals.
Right.
There's the guy who does just about everything, and then there's the rest of the band. They each do like one thing.
That's the type of band I want to be in.
I know.
I'm like the guy. I play one note on a bass. That's all the time. It doesn't matter if I'm in time or not.
Nope. You just do it, and they work around you.
And the thing is, too, I've always been. It's funny that both came up for each of us because I've always been fascinated by the amount of brain space that's taken up by old lyrics and old songs from TV shows and the radio. And
well, have you ever seen that movie Lucy with Scarlett Johansson?
No.
It's a good movie for us, actually, because it talks. But anyway, the movie is essentially about that we use supposedly 10% of our
Yeah.
our brain and what it would be like if we could use all 100%. What would happen?
I just wrote that down. So
Yeah.
you've given us an
Lucy,
episode.
and there's a connection between Lucy, the lead character, and Lucy, the anthro. What is it?
Oh, really? The Australopithecus afarensis.
Yes, the
Don't
Australopithecus.
don't give it
Yes.
away. Don't give it
Yeah.
away.
So I recommend it. You'd enjoy.
Yeah, I just think it'd be nice if we could go in and clear off our hard drives a little bit
Yeah.
with those old files. I mean, if we're
Yeah.
only using 10%, why is like 8 of those 10% use remembering TV
Paradise
jingles?
by the Dashboard Lights.
Yeah.
I
And
know
not just-
every lyric to that song, which is like 10 minutes long, or Stairway to Heaven, or
Yeah. And it's not even, it's like obscure songs like that will come up on by Sirius or something. And I'll be like, I know all the lyrics of this and I don't even remember liking this band.
No. My kids, I used to sing this a commercial to them called Standard. Wait, it was Home Improvement Problems. Call Standard. Bum ba bum ba bum Improvement Company
at Westport
1-7100.
I know that too.
Both of my kids know that jingle, but they have no idea what it means or what it is. Or
we just sang their jingle. We should look to see if they're still in business and try to get a little.
Well, if their number is Westport 1-7100, that's before the numerical prefixes.
Yeah. I used to love that. We were like Niagara 2, I think was when I was growing up. Our phone number was Niagara. It's Niagara 2.
Niagara 2. God, I don't know what ours was.
Those were the days, huh? It was all
military,
very military. Also, the band Kansas did the song "Dust in the Wind." Remember that?
All we are is dust in the wind.
Right.
Yes, of course I remember. Same old song.
Right. So he says in that, I close my eyes only for a moment and the moment's gone.
I closed my eyes only for a moment and a moment's gone.
All my dreams pass before my eyes, a curiosity, dust in the wind. All they are is dust in the wind.
All they are is dust in the wind. Boy, is that true. You know? Dust in the wind. Goddamn right.
But all of it, and the thing is, if I hear the words dust in the wind, or if somebody even at work will be like, God, my allergies are acting up. There's so much dust in the wind today. That song will run through my head for days. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do. Yes,
it's not even singing it, just hearing the words. That
if you're from Kansas, you should know the lyrics to some Kansas songs. I mean, that's just like required.
But I think all of this got me thinking that the band Kansas probably had a greater subconscious effect or influence on people, on the nation in the late 70s than what people even know. Because if we could just bring these songs up like that.
Yes. It was the coolest thing about being from, it was the only cool thing about being from Kansas for a long time until Patrick Mahomes,
There's a very short period from 1976 to the middle of 1978 when Kansas was on, the band Kansas was on the Billboard chart.
They played that at the roller skating rink over and over. Like that was just like,
yeah. And the thing is, both of those songs, Dust in the Wind and Carry On My Wayward Son, they were writing songs about fame and fortune, but also that they were a little weary of the fame and fortune, I think. You know what I mean? Even at the time. And the thing is, when you look at it and you hear it, like, I'm sure that they were doing a lot of drugs and having a lot of sex and a lot of partying at that time.
Yeah, let's hope so.
Yeah, especially a couple of guys from Topeka, of course. They were.
Is that where they were from?
Yeah, I think, or some of them at least were from Topeka.
Topeka. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, that makes it even more amazing, I
Yeah.
think.
Jesus.
Uh,
Can
but the
you
thing
even
is,
get an electric guitar in Topeka?
I don't know, back in the late 70s,
Oh
maybe
my God.
went out of state to get it. I don't
Yeah,
know.
you'd be put in jail for playing it.
Um, and the thing is, it's interesting that in Carry On My Wayward Son, he says, if I claim to be a wise man, well, it surely means that I don't know.
Well, it surely means that I don't know. Carry on my wayward son. I can't not do it. Every time
I
you say
know.
carry on my wayward son, I
I
need to
know.
sing it.
I know. So it's
Sorry.
almost, I don't
I'm really
know. They're like, they were like prophets. Like they were telling the truth at that time. Like they were experiencing it, but also like saying something about fame and fortune
Yes.
at the same time. So
I gotta say, watching them on YouTube, because I'd never seen
yeah.
what they looked like. And watching them on YouTube, a little disappointing, I gotta say. The lead singer who does everything, like he plays
Yeah.
2 keyboards. He's got like the Captain and Tennille keyboard set up where he's got like keys everywhere, stacks
Yeah.
of keys,
Yeah.
and he's playing them all at once. And
Yeah.
he's wearing red jogging shorts and nothing else. And he's sweating all over. But he doesn't seem cool. Like they're not the Allman Brothers.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're like, they seem like maybe a cross between they've all worked at a Ren fair and they do a lot of musical
Yeah.
theater.
Yeah.
That,
Wow. Yeah.
yeah.
You know what? It's always the keyboardist is the guy that like, has perfect pitch, took
Yes.
music theory,
Yeah.
can go in and like actually like orchestrate everything, write it out,
Yeah. Well,
So
there's like 11 guys in the band and he's the only one working.
I always in my mind I imagine them being a little like a little Doobie Brothers look to him, like a lot of
Ish.
long hair with a
There
lot
is a
of
lot of long
chops.
hair. No, there's a lot of long hair for sure.
Yeah.
Yes. But they just seem kind of, I don't know, a little nerdy or something.
Really?
There's something sort of nerdy about them, but they're awesome. I love the songs.
Yeah.
But there's one guy who has the longest hair and the longest beard, and he's just a guy who does the high harmonies. And he's loving it.
Really?
Yeah. He's just so into it.
The rest of the show, he's like just reading a novel or something back there, and then John Forsythe novel. He comes in.
He's just hitting those.
Anyway, I'm putting them out there. I'm saying that they are modern day prophets coming out of Kansas, just like John Brown, Carrie Nation, and Ed Asner.
Oh God! Oh, we need.
Anyway, let's just move on. So
don't forget Paul Rudd.
Oh yeah, Paul Rudd as well. Yeah. We'll be on that.
Yeah.
That I don't know. It's no longer a triumvirate. I don't know. Now it's
that's a Quinn. Yeah, I think you're up to a Quinn there.
We got to find a mountain big enough to put all those those people on it. So now on to the business at hand: housing and homes. In his book, 6,000 Years of Housing, architect Norbert Schonauer says that next to alimentation, meaning food, and procreation, and I think we all know what that means.
Wait, what's the food word again?
Alimentation.
Alimentation?
Yeah, alimentary canal.
Norbert, do you really need it? Can't you just say food? Alimentation.
Alimentation. Like we talk about the alimentary canal, where your food comes in at the top. And then,
okay. He can't just say food.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I don't know. Maybe somebody at the publishers put that in there. But anyway, they said next to this is what Norbert says. Next to alimentation and procreation, shelter in most climates is the most basic requirement for human survival.
Yeah, I agree with him on that one for sure.
Yeah.
Anybody who spent the night out in the rain without any shelter,
and I would say just coming down to alimentation, procreation, and shelter, he's basically boiled down human existence to 3 elements, and that's food, fucking, and shelter.
Yep. I totally carry on my wayward son. Yeah, that's how the wayward son carries on.
Yeah.
He's got shelter, alimentation, and sex.
Let's just say for the rest of this episode, anytime you hear something that appeals to you,
carry on my
yeah,
wayward
just signify it. Signify it with the
it.
refrain from that.
Well, yes.
But I would say even depending on the climate, we could probably get by with just two of those, two of those elements. And we would need, but in most of the world, I would say we need probably three.
All right.
Food, fucking, and shelter.
Oh, I'm saying you're saying in some areas you don't need shelter,
right? Or I would say even I could probably survive without food.
I see where you're going.
Yeah. And I would say also that when this is probably good advice just on a personal, not even from an entire species, on a personal level. When I think back to my happiest times in life, I had those three elements in abundance.
Lay your weary head to rest.
It appealed to you. And so I think there is definitely a causal connection between food, fucking, and shelter and human happiness or human survival, I guess.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. Those are important.
Yeah.
That's at the top of the pyramid.
Right. And I know when people talk about, people like to talk about sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
Yes.
But to me, food, fucking, and shelter is probably
trumps that big time.
Yeah. It's been around millions of years before.
Some drugs, you don't care if you have shelter or not. A famous example of that is Poor Man's First Class, where people just take Xanax or whatever, and
just that's nice. How did we in our show we described heroin as, like you said, it was like if you could be in a bag.
Yes, a bag in the middle of the highway, getting hit by a baseball bat. But in your mind, you're in like a comfy quilt on your couch watching football, and it's raining outside.
Lay your head. So anyway, I'm no doctor, but I'm going to tell people, if you're ever feeling lonely or sad in your life, just look, take a good look and look at which one of those three elements
you're missing.
You're missing, because you need all three. You need all three of those.
Yeah.
And in his book, Schonauer also makes a lot of other interesting points about housing and shelter that are pertinent to our current discussion. He says that, quote, pre-urban indigenous housing, and I think you could say this probably about all housing, but he says pre-urban indigenous housing is an architectural response to a set of cultural and physical forces intrinsic to a particular socioeconomic and physical environment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Duh. I mean, yeah. Yes.
Part of being an academic scholar is stating the obvious, John.
Right. You got to lay the foundation. I know.
Right.
I know.
Right.
Yeah.
And Schonauer says that similarities in building forms of two widely separated societies are often attributed to some common prehistoric heritage, cross influences, or even chance or coincidence.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I like that.
But he says a more realistic and plausible explanation is found in the theory that similar determinative forces cause similarities in building forms.
Okay. Yes.
Now how do you feel?
I'm like, okay. Yeah, if it rains over here and it rains over there, we're gonna have we're gonna have roofs that are slanted in some way.
Thank you, Professor Lehr. You've cut through it and got the essential element to that. But the thing is, I think you see this in a lot of the TV shows that go searching for ancient mysteries or ancient aliens.
Which you have seen every single one.
Right.
Every one.
I love them. I love them. I'm into those shows, and
Yeah.
I grew up watching them. I still love
Yeah.
watching them. They're great TV. They always go to really exciting places.
Yeah.
But they'll see a pyramid in Egypt and then a pyramid in Central America,
Right.
and they'll say the Egyptians must have traveled to Central America and taught those people there how to make pyramids.
Right.
You know what I mean? And my response is always, well, actually, it seems common sense that if you're trying to make something a high structure
Right.
out of any material,
Any kid with Lincoln Logs knows what you're talking about.
right. It's Jenga 101. You know what I
Uh-huh.
mean? It's like, but the thing is, it's the pyramid is just it's common sense or through trial
Exactly.
and error or something.
If you're in a diner and you're stacking
Right.
little creamers, you put them up on in one row, it's going to fall over.
Right.
But
Exactly.
if you build a foundation, you can get 20, 30 creamers on your table before it topples.
I know. But for some reason, people think ancient aliens had to come down and tell us how to do that. And
No ancient alien told me how to stack creamers in a diner.
no.
Nope.
One time I was with my brother David, who you knew.
Yes.
And we were at the Mesa Verde cliff dwellings. He and I had taken a road trip up there a couple of years ago. And I love my brother David because he was into everything. You know what I mean? His mind was just working overtime. He was into everything.
Yeah.
He was hilarious and crazy. And the thing is, stoned all the time. Was another.
Yes. Great laugh. Great McCray laugh.
Fantastic. And the thing is, you could never quite tell when he said something to you if he actually believed it or if he was just
messing with you.
Yeah, making fun, like trying to get a rise out of you or something.
Yes.
And so we were at Mesa Verde and looking at the cliff dwellings, and David brought up ancient aliens and asked me if I thought ancient aliens had visited the Southwest and taught people how to make cliff dwellings. And I said to him, so you're telling me that our ancestors needed space aliens to come thousands of light years away from the future or whatever it was, just to show us how to stack one stone on top of another stone and put mud in between them. And he just started laughing. He never responded to me, so I don't know what he was talking about. But that's that's what Schonauer is kind of talking about here. Right. Is like it's not. I mean, we respond to different environmental factors. The term is actually environmental determinism, and it means that humans, no matter where they are, will respond to certain environmental factors in similar ways.
Okay. Yes.
And we've always talked about. I mean, we talk about too about like you always think that you're the only one that's ever come up with an idea in Hollywood, but yet you'll find out when it comes out. There's been hundreds. Thousands. Yeah. There's no new ideas in Hollywood.
Right. Right.
And so Schonauer gives examples of indigenous people in Africa and Australia who live in similar environments, who both inhabit beehive-type huts. Ooh. So those are huts that they're narrow, but they come up and they're sticks, and then they stick them into the ground, and then they tie the tops together, or the tops are pulled together, and it creates a beehive type shape.
Those are good. That's good housing. Because you can stand up in that.
Right.
You know?
You can stand up and turn around.
Yes. That's the big thing you need. That's why pup tents is a drag, man. You're always on your arm, you know.
Oh, God.
Give me a Coleman any day.
Yeah.
Just give me a big ass Coleman to put up.
It's just something that you can even if you could kind of to take your pants on and off and put your underwear on.
Exactly.
And Schonauer adds that it must be realized that the likelihood of identical dwelling forms decreases proportionately with increased complexity and variation in the determinate forces.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's a fancy way of saying you won't find Inuit igloos in the Sahara Desert.
Yeah.
I
mean,
guess
what's Norbert doing here?
yeah. I would say though that once, when it gets a little bit warmer in the Arctic, when, there's a certain periods of time where the sun is out, it gets warmer.
Yeah.
And so then people move from like the winter housing, the igloo, into like a tent. And at that point, the tent does become more similar to other
right
places with a similar climate across the world.
Climate. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you ever build an igloo when it snowed? You try to build one, like, really build one?
Apparently, you have to have the right type of snow and ice.
Yeah, it's
what
hard to do.
Did you do it?
No, I tried, but we failed. We could never. It would always crash in on us. It's amazing that those things work.
In Schonauer's book, he goes in and talks about like how in depth housing from all over the world, which I read.
Oh, Jesus.
And
now
he talks about
all that stuck in your head too.
I know.
Lay your weary head to rest.
I know that will come out years from now. Like I'll be laying in a hospital somewhere. I'll be like, with an igloo, you got to have the right type of snow. But they're very complicated. The igloos, it's very complex. How you make the tunnel into it, and then the sleeping chambers are higher than the tunnel going into it.
Why is it round? Why is it in a dome?
It's the easiest way when they construct it. I think you stand in the middle of it, and then you can go around in a circle, and then you can go higher up to what the key piece up at the top,
right,
to set that in. But and then the key piece pushes out all directions.
Right.
So the dome is like it's a way to construct it going higher, and then it also makes it stronger for the forces of snow on top of it. So very complicated.
Yeah, they're hard to build.
So then Schonauer also says that the various means by which food is procured by people is reflected in the nature of their dwellings.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
And he says food gatherers and hunters who live in a nomadic existence live in ephemeral and episodic shelters, while nomadic tribes with a pastoral economy, meaning herders, live in portable tent-like dwellings with their frame and cover carried by beasts of burden from campsite to campsite.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So for millions of years, or up until about the last 10,000 years, we as a species were hunters and gatherers.
Yeah. We moved around too.
Right. So our ancestors, because we had to keep moving and looking for food, didn't produce any permanent settlements up until about that time, about 10,000 years ago.
Was that when the Tigris? Is that the Samaritans? Sorry, that was my dog. Was that the Samaritans? The beginning, the dawn of civilization, of trade, and hey, I do this well, you do that well, so you do this, I do this, and then we swap.
Yeah, somebody should tell the band Kansas that, because it sounds like there's 9 guys who aren't doing anything.
Yeah, boy, it's true, man. There's like guys just sitting there. And this dude in the middle is working his butt off. And he's just sweat as hell. I mean, he's into it because he's like the guy. But Jesus, somebody get him a towel or something.
Where's the guy in the band that brings him a towel?
There are plenty of them available. They're just standing there.
But I will say, John, you're absolutely right. I mean, it was when we had domestication of animals and domestication of plants and agriculture that we started making, when the need for it to produce food for agriculture, that's when we started making more permanent structures.
Right. Makes sense. You got to stay with the plants, or with the cows.
And I was thinking about it. It's almost like, when we go camping, we don't make a permanent, you don't build a permanent structure every time you go camping. So
no, you do not. I mean? Some people bring so much stuff though. Jesus. Yeah. I mean, some people, my God. They'll build a little porch and they'll bring a couch and it's insane.
I was going to say, Mary and I, that's the way we go. When when we go camping, we have a Tempur-Pedic mattress cut down to our tent size.
Wow.
So you don't even feel the ground when you're out there camping.
That's good. How do you travel with that? In the back of the truck?
In the back of the truck, we roll it up. Yeah. It's a little embarrassing when you get that thing out. Yeah, you roll it up.
How big a roll is that thing? It's got the size of a car by the time you roll it.
Yeah, it used to be when we didn't have the truck and we'd put that into our Chevy Cruze. There wasn't much room for anybody to move around in there.
But it doesn't matter because you got that thing. You know what I've always wanted to do when I camp is bring one of those battery charger, or those things that you can jumpstart a car.
The generators?
No, it's a battery. It's like a battery, jump starter.
Yeah.
Anyway, it has an Edison. They have Edison things on. Bring one of those and plug in an electric blanket.
No, that's really nice too.
Don't
ever tell anybody. Don't tell real serious campers about it. That sounds really nice.
Hide it under a pillow.
Look at him all toasty warm in there.
Mm-hmm. Isn't that a great idea?
It is a great idea. We also, Mary's parents a couple of years ago gave us a propane oven. Not a stove, an oven.
Whoa.
And so we make cookies and biscuits. And one time we were at 8,000 feet at Murphy Lake in northern New Mexico, and I made a Chicago deep dish pizza.
Whoa.
Yeah.
How did it taste?
It was delicious. Just everybody else having hot dogs and marshmallows, and then to smell like a pizza, freshly baked pizza coming across the campsite must have been. But it's embarrassing when you take it out. It's the size of a microwave. You know what I mean? So it's people notice what you're bringing out. If you're like, what is that? What are they?
Whatever happened to the Dutch oven?
I know. No, it's gone beyond that. I've made all kinds of amazing stuff there. So probably for millions of years, I mean, if you consider Homo habilis, which was the first of our line, probably 2.5 million years ago, probably even longer than that if you go back to Sahelanthropus chadensis, which was one of the earliest bipedal primates we found. Our ancestors probably slept a lot like chimps do.
In trees?
Yeah, because in the article, a Smithsonian Magazine article titled "Chimpanzees Are Really Particular About Where They Sleep," Rachel Newer says that for chimpanzees, selecting a suitable place to sleep involves finding the perfect branch on the perfect tree.
Boy, I can relate to that.
Yeah, I was thinking, I've been camping with people like this, and it's probably you. I've been camping with you like this, trying to find the perfect spot.
Flat, no rocks. I don't know if I could sleep. There's no way I could sleep up in a tree. I'd fall out.
Well, they kind of seeing photos of it, and I'll have to post some photos of it. But they find that's what she's saying. You find the perfect branch
that holds you.
With a fork in it, and then they put twigs and other little branches up there that will hold them up there.
Wow.
And Newer says, each night chimps recreate their place of rest, constructing a brand new sleeping nest from scratch.
Jesus. Oh my God.
This time-consuming task involves bending and breaking stiff stems and interweaving them with foliage to create a thick, bouncy mattress-like structure.
Oh my God. Every day?
Yeah.
Oh.
Every night, the chimps are out there making a new nest. And
I never leave my bed. I just keep the same one.
Yeah. Once you make it, it just seems crazy to me that maybe that's what evolution, that's what our species realized, hey, we could just sleep in that same nest again.
Yeah. That was that freed up a lot of time. once we figured that out.
That was bigger than tools, I think.
Yeah,
Like, hey, you don't need to throw
wait a
that tool
minute.
away every time you use it. You can use it again.
So weird. I collect so much more food when I don't have to build a bed every single night.
That's the revolution. That's a Neolithic revolution. Just realizing that. Or perhaps, possibly, our prehistoric ancestors slept like gorillas. And on their website, the Smithsonian National Zoo says that each member of a gorilla troop will build their own nest out of foliage.
God.
And the National Zoo says that in the wild, gorillas build their nests on the ground or in trees using branches, leaves, and other accessible plant materials.
Mm-hmm.
And they also quote animal keeper Melba Brown, who says, if a gorilla isn't feeling well, he or she will often build a nest and relax or nap in it for an hour or less.
An hour?
So you just like
during the day when they want to take a nap, they have to build a bed first?
Yeah, like they're not feeling well. Like, I need to lay down. I better go
build a nest.
Yeah, take a nap. I need to go build a nest before I can.
I can relate to that. You know, when I'm not feeling well, I need to take my pants off. First of all, you got to take your pants off.
Right.
Anybody who naps with their pants on, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. What are you doing?
What can you say?
What don't you
real
want to
Harry
enjoy
Truman.
your life?
I think we discussed it. Yeah, we discussed that in the sleeping episode. Remember that, like Truman used to say, like, you got to take your pants off.
You got to take you really do. Yeah. You really do, everybody.
In the book Bonobo, the Forgotten Ape, Frans de Waal and Frans Lanting say that for bonobos, nests mark off personal space.
The bonobos, they're amazing. Yeah. They're just amazing.
They really. We should get a bonobo on the show.
Yes, but not in person because they'll rip your face off. We'll zoom one in.
No, we got to go in there. We got to go into there. We got to go to them.
Okay.
And de Waal and Lanting describes observations by other researchers that have shown, quote, a dozen cases in which bonobos feeding on a favorite food responded to the approach of a companion by quickly breaking off a few branches and constructing a rudimentary nest. While sitting in the nest, they were not bothered or displaced by the others and could consume their food undisturbed.
It's like a trundle bed.
Or just like if somebody's bothering you, you just make a nest.
Yeah.
And then you go into the nest and they have to stop bothering. The rules say they stop bothering.
He's in his nest. Leave him alone. Yeah. That's true. But my family doesn't adhere to that rule.
Right.
Everybody has to announce to everybody, if I say to my family that I'm going to take a nap, that's when all the things come up that I need to take care of.
You need to tell them about the bonobos. Be like, well, look, when I make my nest, when Daddy makes his nest, everybody has to wait. Is what you got to tell them.
They don't care. They don't care.
I wish I had that. If we did that at work, like if I saw somebody coming, I could just like pull out some twigs from under my cubicle and just like make it. Oh, he's in his nest. I'll come back.
He's in his nest. Oh, damn it! All right. No, don't disturb him. What are you, crazy? He's in his nest.
He's in his nest. Come back. Because I mean, obviously, if you put like busy on your Zoom call or whatever, nobody
adheres to that.
They know you're there. That's the whole thing.
That's right. You're right about that.
So for millions of years, that's probably the way our ancestors lived, is like they didn't have permanent structures, but every night, wherever they were at, everybody would just try to make a little nest of some sort of temporary structure that they could sleep in. And as long as you live in temperate climates where the weather is not too bad, the only real threat is for that type of living is predators
and bugs. I guess. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. Because I don't think predators probably follow the I'm in my nest rule.
No. They're hoping you're in your nest because then they can get you. And that's what my family is. They're predators.
Oh,
They're all predators.
Oh no! Wow. Well, I'm glad we articulated that. So I hope that helps. Carry on my wayward son. And at some point after our ancestors moved to different climates, or perhaps for greater protection from predators, they probably realized that a cave could provide pretty good protection from the elements and predators.
Right. Except for that big old gaping hole at the beginning.
Yeah.
What do you do about that thing?
And probably some of the predators had the same idea and were using like wolves or bears or something.
Okay. Yeah.
But keep in mind, our ancestors were still predominantly hunter-gatherers even when they moved into caves. And in Archaeology and Introduction, Kevin Greene and Tom Moore state that early prehistoric settlements associated with hunter-gatherers were predominantly temporary and frequently made use of natural rock shelters or caves. And they say that one of the things to remember when you're excavating, if you're ever excavating a cave site like this, is that there is always the possibility that a camp or a cave was only used when specific animals and plants were available.
Mm-hmm.
And they say that the home base of a hunter-gatherer group might contain semi-permanent houses and other structures, while a field camp associated with hunting expeditions would leave fewer traces and a different range of bones or artifacts.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
it's like when you go camping.
Right.
When we are doing excavating you, if you're at your home, if we don't find a camping oven,
right,
we can assume that it's your main home.
Right. But you would have to know that before. You know what? I was just thinking, when I pass,
yes,
I think I'm going to leave it in my will to go bury me somewhere up in northern New Mexico. Kind of like that guy that put that treasure out there.
Yes.
Bury me out there, and then I'll be buried with some of my own artifacts, and then you and our listeners can come try to find me and excavate me.
God, that's going to be an incredible episode. That's fantastic.
Yeah, good luck, everybody. I'll try not to make it too hard. I gotta find. I have a place in mind where I'd like to be buried up there.
That's fantastic. That is an excellent idea. That is a show ender that I've never heard of. We excavate one of the dead hosts.
Yeah. If that doesn't give us a Webby, I don't know what will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No kidding.
But you're absolutely right, John. It's like we don't really know if it was a permanent home or not permanent home. It's kind of like if someone has a lake house, they live in the suburbs, but they have a lake house somewhere, a beach house, and you're excavating the beach house. It's going to be different artifacts in there.
Right.
Yeah.
Of course.
And another thing about caves, and I don't think our prehistoric ancestors needed an ancient alien to tell us this, but it's kind of like what you're saying. You have that big gaping hole at the front.
That's the downside to a cave. What do you do about the hole?
Well, I think it's pretty obvious. I mean, common sense that if you have the same brain power we do, somebody must have been like, hey, why don't we just stack some stones there at the front to kind of like keep the wind out and make it harder for predators to get in here.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So
and that's what they did? Is that what they did?
That's what they did.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's the same ingenuity we have the same brain and same ingenuity we have today for, like, you can go online and find people, I don't know, making a hammock out of duct tape or something.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's not even that impressive, really. A hammock out of duct tape. I feel like I could do that.
Yeah, but you didn't. You didn't do it.
Right,
it's like you say about modern art.
Right. No, I get that. Yes.
Yeah. Or like sometimes you'll see people who take a tough shed and make it into like a casita.
Yes. Yeah. A hammock would be a great way to sleep in a tree. I'm sure people do that all the time.
Right.
You wrap yourself up in that thing and then you can't fall out of it. But God, I could never sleep like that.
Really? Do you,
Oh,
do you
hanging
flop
like
around a
that
lot?
with my
Do you
butt
flop it?
down at the bottom. Yeah. Just like in a V shape, like
Yeah.
I'm sitting in a plane.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I need to stretch out.
We have to
Spread
try
eagle.
it. We should try an experiment. We'll put some mattresses below the tree, and you and I can try to spend the night up there.
Okay.
Listen, I'm going to write that one down. I got a lot
Okay,
of
I do
ideas.
that.
I'm
God,
just spitballing. They're coming to me right now.
that's a good one. That's a good one.
So another thing Norbert Schonauer says is that, and I found this interesting, was that circular dwellings, and this is kind of what you were talking about, like why is the igloo circular, are primordial and predate the rectangular shape of indigenous shelters.
Interesting.
And I don't know if that's subconscious or if, again, that's just something that a circular, through trial and error, people realize that a circular structure is probably the most easiest to make. For example, if you put a bunch of sticks around in a circle and then tied the tops together to create the frame.
Right.
That would probably be I don't know if there is a subconscious. I think it's probably just, that's what the problem required. You know what I mean?
There's not a lot of right angles in nature.
Yeah. Right, exactly. That's very good. I think it's probably with using just sticks, and it's probably hard to make a right angle.
Yeah, it is. Back to Lincoln logs. You ever made a Lincoln log house? It's not easy. Right. And they even give you the plastic roofs already made, that you just stick on top. Yeah, but God, making a door or a window in that Lincoln log, that's tough.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they also gave you the chimney. Remember they had the plastic chimney.
That's right. There was always a chimney. You just stick it on there.
Schonauer says that these temporary dwellings were small in size, constructed solely of building materials collected in the immediate vicinity of the campsite. Again, like the chimps. Just trying to find something new.
You're not going to hike 10 miles and bring it back to the camp. Look, well, shit. Why don't we just camp over there? Oh yeah. Okay.
How many millions, infinity of times was that exact exchange heard in prehistory?
Wait a minute. Why don't we just come over there?
And to me, I was thinking about it. It's having to build your own shelter every night in front of other tribe members must have just been awful. You know what I mean?
Earl, my dog is scratched. Can you hear that thumping?
Oh yeah, I was wondering.
Stop it! Come here, Earl. Thank you. Go somewhere else to scratch.
I was actually wondering what you were doing.
I've tried everything on that dog. I've given him flea and tick, and I've given him baths, and I don't know.
It's the time of year. A lot of dust in the wind out there, I guess.
All we are is dust in the wind. Same old song, only for a moment, and a moment's gone.
We'll edit that out. Or will we?
Fortunately, I'm such a bad singer that we won't get hit by a copyright infringement. Yeah, because I'm so far away from the song, it won't even register.
Yeah, maybe if somebody from Abscam or whatever it is, hears about, they'll send us a cease and desist letter. Like, please stop. How do you feel about when you show up at a camp, when you go camping? It's always, I don't know, there's a lot of anxiety when everybody else is already set up and you show up and it's just everybody's sitting at their campsites watching you.
Yes. You're on stage. We're talking parking camp now, where you camp and you've got a picnic table. And yes, you're right. Everybody's looking at you. What's he gonna look at this idiot?
Right. And they have nothing. They've already been set up for a couple of days, and they're already probably bored out of their minds, just sitting out there,
drunk, just drunk, sitting in their lawn chair, looking at the idiot who just rolled up.
Yeah,
look at that mattress. Jesus. What is that thing? Is that a Tempur-Pedic?
Is that a microwave? What is
a microwave? What's he pulling out there?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Imagine having to go through that with your tribe every single night. Like, you're going to use that. You're going to use that twig, or you're going to use that branch. I wouldn't.
Oh boy, here he comes.
You know what, I was thinking that next time I go camping, I'm going to go old school and just start. I'll show up without a tent and just make a nest out there of things I find.
Yeah, just go. Yeah, go old school.
Crawl up in a tree, make a nest.
Night, everybody.
See what they say then. And so going on, Schoenauer says that the dome shape or beehive dwelling, which we discussed earlier, may be over 250,000 years old.
Wow.
That's what they think.
Wow.
And he says that the size and shape of these simple dwellings are basically similar in most respects, except for the covering, which may be leaves, bark, mats, or skin. So
let me guess, depending on where you live, you use what's around you.
Right.
Jesus, I could have written this book, but I didn't.
You didn't.
I didn't. I didn't do it.
It's always obvious. It's always obvious in hindsight.
Yes,
you know what
that's
I mean.
Right. That's right.
Schoenauer then quotes anthropologist Carlton S. Kuhn, who says, quote, "One might almost say that the domed hut is as specific to man in a cultural sense as the oriole's," meaning the bird, the oriole's special kind of nest is instinctively specific to orioles.
Okay, yes.
So take that, Orioles.
What? Yeah, Jesus, that's an Oriole diss, isn't it?
I know. It's like, you think you're so special.
What does an Oriole nest look like?
I knew you were going to ask that, and I tried to figure it out right at the last minute, and I couldn't find one. But I think they make like a really, I don't know. I'll have to go on and look.
Yeah,
I'm not.
Anybody can Google it. We've all got computers in our pockets. Why do we even talk anymore?
Why are you listening to this for? Go Google it.
Just go Google it.
Google it. That should be like an intro to Anthro with 2U, and then it comes up and it's just a link to Google.
Well, that's what's coming. When we all have, when we're all online, we'll just all know everything all the time. Right.
Oh,
and then there'll be no more conversation. We don't need to move information that way anymore. It just is.
It'd be like, I knew you were going to say that. Yeah. I knew that was going to happen.
And he knew you were going to say that you knew.
Yeah. It'd be like camping. It'd be like just those people watching you camp all it. It'd be like, oh, yeah, I knew that was, they were going to do that. So what changed the design of our houses? And we've already mentioned it. It was domestication of animals and plants about 10,000 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And, if basically, again, it comes down to what your needs were in the environment. If you were a shepherd, you would probably stay in the same area for, a few days or weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But then you would move on. Once all the grass was gone. So then you needed something a little more permanent than a beehive shelter, but something not quite as permanent as a stone house. You know what I mean? So that's where you would have like a more substantial tent that you could roll up and take with you and follow the herd.
Yeah, I just duct tape it to one of the, make them carry it.
It was like... did you say to one of the sheep? You kind of cut out to one of the sheep?
Yeah. If I'm herding sheep and I've got a tent, I'm just going to duct tape it to one of them and they can haul it. I'm not carrying it.
People will be like, why is at the end of the season none of your sheep have any wool on them? It's like you just hold it off, sticky over. Yeah. Just... the whole mountainside is just full of like duct tape ends with like with wool on the inside. Yeah. And the other thing, you don't want to leave a permanent house there if you're a shepherd.
Right.
Like I don't think you again need an ancient alien to tell you that if you leave a house, people are going to come squat in that thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I wouldn't even listen to an ancient alien if he came in front. I wouldn't trust him.
They're the same with me.
What's in it
Yeah.
for you? Why are you telling me all this stuff?
Right. Right. You know what I would say to what if an ancient alien came down and I met it? I'd be like, "Who asked you? Who
Yeah.
asked you?"
Yeah.
You know.
We'll figure it out.
Right.
Just like
Oh,
you guys did.
yeah.
And,
Yeah.
actually, we had ancient aliens too. You're kidding. Who's the first one?
There's no original ideas in the universe.
Yeah.
The universe. There's always been. So, so for agriculturalists, again, they had to stay in the same area, obviously, to keep an eye over the food.
Right.
And that's when we started making permanent homes.
Yeah, and you've got to store the food too, like
Right.
grain and all that stuff.
Very good. Very perceptive.
Yes.
I'm writing your name, that little star down there.
That's what Buckminster Fuller was all about, storage. Easy.
Oh, storage.
Easy.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll have to do one. We'll do one on him. We'll come back. We'll talk about
it. He's our
fascinating guy.
A mutual hero.
Yeah.
We both love him so much.
The creative force behind all of our endeavors. He and Grover Krantz.
Yeah, you are absolutely right. Absolutely right.
But again, the materials we use to build our permanent homes, our forever homes, if you will, were determined again by the environment. They were determined by the environment.
Yeah.
And a particular type of house, which you'll find throughout the world in certain environments, is the pit house.
Pit house?
Right. Which is where they would dig down a little depression. Usually the pit house would be, I think it was like half a meter down, which would be like a foot and a half almost.
Right.
You dig it like in a circle.
Yeah.
And then you put branches in there, or you'd put tree trunks in there to kind of hold up the roof. And then you would lay other branches over to make the dome cover of the house, and then you would cover all of that with dirt. So it's like partially subterranean,
right?
In other
like
words.
Adobe kind of structure. Early,
yeah. And it's
and you dig down. Why? Because it's cooler.
Well, it could be cooler or it could be warmer down there. And also, if you think about it, it takes less. Well, I mean, they were still using trunks and everything in there, but really, it becomes very energy efficient for keeping the heat in there.
Yeah, and it's stable.
And Linda Cordell, who was a UNM professor of archaeology, in her book, The Archaeology of the Southwest, she noted research that was done in 1981 that found heat is lost more slowly in underground structures than above ground structures. And this research showed that while a pit house would lose 19,614 BTUs per day,
Jesus,
over the winter months,
horrible.
But a surface pueblo would lose 50,450 BTUs per day.
Jesus.
That's
not even a shelter. I mean, what is just laying out in the open air? How much do you lose then?
I know it comes down to
50,000 BTU. I don't even know what that is, but it just sounds like a ton.
Well, I think a BTU is like what the energy from like a one match or something. But the thing is, it's basically it was the above ground pueblos were much more inefficient than the pit houses were.
God.
And basically, all they were trying to do was like the research was just taking it up to like a temperature of 60 degrees inside the structure.
Wow.
So 60 degrees may have been like the best you could do back in back in those days.
You're never sleeping nude unless you have a lot of fur covers. And even
Can
then,
you imagine at the end, after a winter season, everybody keeping their clothes on for like
it's just stuck to you. Oh God. Everybody wants to go back to the good old days. You know?
I know.
Not me.
I know.
I like my clean underwear.
Cordell also notes that the pit house had less of a wind chill effect, obviously, because it was lower.
Right.
And the ground itself functioned as a heat sink. So it would like help maintain that temperature in there.
Okay.
So again, pit houses were very warm and efficient.
God,
even
you
though
had to
they seemed...
dig that thing though. You ever dug a big trench or anything in your life? It's
Have you?
Yes. And it is backbreaking work.
Yeah.
God, those guys who can dig are like, it's amazing.
Oh.
I mean, it's really hard.
When were you digging a trench? Like out in front of your house? Or?
Yeah. I dug the footings for my tree house.
Oh, yeah,
stairway.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
I've dug a few things.
Okay. So moving on, John, a couple of things that stuck out to me as I was doing this week's research was that for most of our history, our houses, or at least the houses for common people, were usually small one-room structures.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you're not going to have an office space. Not when you have to dig a pit.
Yeah.
Jesus.
No man cave. There's no man cave there for you just to go be by yourself.
Space. Yeah, go sit out by the tree if you want personal space.
Well, that's the other... That's the other thing that stuck out to me, is that all of these houses for most of our history, up until like the last 200 years, were always jam-packed with people.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
in her book, The Making of Home, Judith Flanders says that for most of human history, houses have not been private spaces, nor have they had within them more private spaces belonging to specific residents, nor spaces used by all the residents used in turn for entirely private functions.
Right.
So you had one room and everybody was in there at all times.
Wow.
With you.
How'd you make love? I guess you just did it.
Just everybody would be like,
okay,
that's try not to.
How do you think you got here? Kind of thing.
You ever been to Burning Man? Maybe that's kind of like Burning Man at that point. And I have to. This would drive me crazy. And I'm not really an introvert, but if you were an introvert, I would recommend, if they ever come up with time travel, I'm telling you, don't go back in time. Don't go back in time, because you would hate it. You would hate it.
Yeah.
And Flanders says that in the 1630s, the standard house was just a single room with a cellar 4.8 by 6 meters in size.
Wow.
So that's like 15 by 18 feet.
Wow. That's like a $350,000 apartment in Lower Manhattan.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. People in New York are like, "Wow, that much?
That's huge.
I can dig that."
Mm.
And Flanders says that in France at the time, people again all lived together in a few rooms, and she notes that in the 17th century in Paris, Henry IV, the King of France, his architect, who was a man at the top of his trade, lived with his wife, his 7 children, and an unknown number of servants in 2 rooms.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Man.
Those are
the people who should be going to Mars, because they talk about, the habitat on Mars. You're going to be scrunched up. We should just go back in time, get those guys. They won't care.
It's like, or like people who are at submarines, maybe submarines now probably, but that would be. I was thinking that would be like, if you had to live at all times like your house at Thanksgiving, like the dining room of your house at Thanksgiving, when everyone's crowded in there.
Yeah.
Everyone's trying to talk. Yeah, every single night.
Shut up. Shut up.
Yeah.
God damn it.
They couldn't even hear you. They couldn't even hear you at that point. If you were trying to tell them, can we all just be quiet?
And everybody. And then somebody snickers, and then everybody laughs. And then you're back again.
Right.
No,
every single moment of your life. You know?
Oh my God. Oh my God.
And when houses in Europe first started adding additional rooms, the rooms themselves usually led directly from one room to the other. And this design was called en enfilade in French. And so you go direct, and you see this like if you go to European houses and some older American houses where like the dining room will open up directly by door into the living room, which then opens directly by door into the bedroom, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem with this design, obviously, was that to get from one end of the house to the other end of the house, you had to go through.
Yeah. Gee. I'll
Go
be
through
right
every
back.
single room. Yeah.
Oh, I forgot the spoon. Oh. Why don't we make the dining room the bedroom and make the bedroom the dining room since it's right next to the kitchen?
Oh, and the thing is also you would have to walk through every room regardless if there were other people in there or not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Excuse me, getting a spoon. Sorry. Getting a spoon.
And we have in English, or in America, I should say, we have something called the shotgun house or shotgun shack.
Yes.
And it's a smaller house, usually like a middle income or low income house. The same design though, of like one room, you have the living room goes into the bedroom and then finally into the kitchen. You just open it, you can see all the way through the house.
Right. You can shoot a shotgun right through it.
Right. And that's what that's how people they think that term came from. But Flanders actually she says that a more plausible explanation for the term shotgun shack is that this type of design and house originally came from West Africa, and then via the West Indies, it came to New Orleans. And shotgun, she says, is actually a corruption of the Yoruba word, a West African language, the Yoruba word for house, which is toga.
What? Okay.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Isn't that amazing?
Toga.
Togun.
Shotgun. Togun. Shotgun. Togun.
Yeah.
Shotgun. Carry on my A lot of shotgun houses in Chicago.
Are there?
Really cool. Just straight up. But it'll be like a 2-story. So you'll have like on the first floor, you'll have the parlor right there in the front.
Right.
And then the dining room and then the kitchen. And then upstairs, you'll have bedroom with a bathroom.
Interesting. Interesting. I'll try to put some designs online too.
Yeah.
We have a friend in Philadelphia who lives in like a Trinity house, I think they call them, where it's like very narrow, but the first floor is the living room.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second floor is, or first floor is the kitchen, I think. And then the second floor is the living room. And then the third floor is the bedroom. But they're all stacked on top of each other.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of like a shotgun shack turned on its side, I guess.
A lot of stairs.
Yeah. And the reason I'm telling you all of this about the enfilade house, or going from one room directly into the other room, is Flanders says that in 1597, the architect John Thorpe designed the first corridor for a house in Chelsea, England. And before that time, again, there had been no corridors in English.
It took us that long to figure out a corridor? God, we're idiots. We've been around for how many millions of years? And it took us that long to invent a hall?
I know.
No, we need the ancient aliens, you know? Hey, why don't you build a hall? What? Yeah, a hall. What's that? Well, it's like a room. It's more like a tunnel. It connects 2 rooms. Holy shit. Thank you, ancient alien. You're welcome. Now,
I brought this back.
About the ray gun. Forget the ray gun. I'm going to go work on the hall.
Now, how does it work? How does it work again?
Yeah, wait a minute. So I'm magically in this other room?
See, I had brought this all over to where like, oh, ancient aliens, we're smart enough, we can figure this out. But then you realize that the hallway has only been around since 1600.
Jesus. It's embarrassing.
And Flanders says that when people first heard about it and saw it, they thought it was so weird. Like it took a while for people to kind of catch on to using a hallway. That they used to have to describe it as, quote, a long entrance running through the entire house.
Yeah. Well, that is what it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
A couple other houses, the log cabins, for example, John, log cabins.
Yes. Here we go.
Um, those were brought to North America, or the colonies in North America, by Swedish colonists.
Really?
And there was a Swedish, New Sweden was a colony in the early 1600s in Delaware and Philadelphia. And that the log cabin is actually sort of there's certain parts of Sweden and Finland at the time that you would use the log cabin, and they were the ones that brought it. And then later people who came over, the English with William Penn, later into Philadelphia, they saw those that the Swedes had built and thought those were indigenous houses, and so that's what they adapted. They stole those, thinking that was like an indigenous or design.
I see.
It actually came from Sweden.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
And then also Flanders notes that throughout the 19th century on frontiers, people also they went back to digging shelters in the side of a hill or something. You had your dugout.
Which is like a cave. Why not just use a cave?
I don't know. Maybe if you're out on the plains.
Look what I invented. It's called the dugout. That's a cave. God, you're right.
And I remember being in school, like elementary school, and they would always show pictures, especially in Kansas. I don't know, maybe everybody did, but of like the Kansas plains back in the 1870s.
Oh.
And there'd be a family there, and on the top of their dugout, there'd be like a cow up there eating the grass or something.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And they all looked miserable, didn't they?
Right.
No, but just, oh my God. Yes, the cow's on the roof. It loses its panache real quick.
The photographer was probably really excited about it. Yeah. They're like, "What? The cow's back?" Flanders says that one of the reasons people did these is that they were cheap. And in 1872, she says a minister in Nebraska built a 4.3 square foot dugout.
Okay.
So that's like 2 meters.
Jesus.
Square foot. That's like 2 meters by 2 meters.
Jesus.
Dugout for $2.78. It was like
2 meters. Could I sleep in that? I don't think I could.
I don't think you could. Yeah. I was thinking that like it's basically a hole in the ground. What did he spend the $2.78 on? When he blow that money on?
Yeah. It's for the shovel. Have you ever slept in a bathtub?
I don't think I have. I've laid in a bathtub before, but I don't think I've. Have you?
No, never slept in a bathtub. I don't think I could. A dry tub? Dry tub it? No, I couldn't dry tub it.
If you had to, if we were all in there, we'd probably be fighting over the dry tub. That was the size of our house. And also, they would try to make the interiors for sod houses, for example, or dugouts, as home-like as possible. The walls were painted with a mixture of clay and water that was referred to as whitewash, and sheets were hung to divide the space into rooms.
Oh, boy. Oh. I had some post-college living environments that were like that.
I was thinking that probably the reason you would probably welcome death at that point because your grave would be larger than your house that you were living in.
Should we just bury him in the dugout? I mean, he already dug it.
It'd be easier. It'd be easier than digging a grave. That's for sure. Finally, John, I just want to discuss the difference between a house and a home. And Flanders notes that usually, where a house is a fixed the physical structure, a home is usually more than that. It's a home is the place where one lives or was brought up, with reference to the feelings of belonging, comfort, etc. associated with it. And the first distinction between a house and home was in a poem in 1275.
Ooh.
And she adds that a home can be seen as a haven from the outside world, a place where we are cherished and protected, where we find emotional sustenance, a place where we can be ourselves, and where, in addition, we can find literal as well as spiritual comfort.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
so,
Now you moved around a lot. When you
right.
think of home, what do you think of? What place do you think of?
Well, to me, that's what, and you bring it up. My mom and I moved a lot. And usually it was in the same area, but we'd always moved to different apartments.
Right.
And so, when I was a little kid, my parents owned a house, and then they got divorced, and my mom sold that house. And then after that, I was in just rentals up until 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And so to me, I've never associated home with an actual building, for example. And so to me now, even if I own a home, I own a home in Albuquerque, and if I go out on my roof and I look around, I can see.
Wait, what are you doing up on your roof?
I go up there every once in a while. We have apple trees, and the apple tree. I'm trying to get them before the cow eats them. But the thing is, when I'm up there, I can see the Petroglyph National Monument. I can see Old Town Albuquerque, which has been around for hundreds of years, and I can see the Sandia Pueblo, Indian Pueblo, which has been around for thousands of years. So again, the idea of permanence of owning something doesn't really hit me. And so I was thinking about it. It's usually home to me. It's wherever and whenever I'm with Mary and my dogs, or my dog right now, because I lost one of my dogs.
Yeah. Time to get another dog, by the way, in my opinion.
Yeah. But that's where I feel that sustenance, and I feel like I can be my. Yeah.
Yes.
How about you?
I grew up in the same house my whole life, exact opposite.
Yeah.
Until my senior year. And I do think of that. I have fond memories of that.
Do you?
Just because it was like, the same place. But
yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think of for home now? Where do you consider that the house you live in, or what do you, when you think of home?
Yeah. I mean, we've been in this house for, I don't know, over 5 years. So it's kind of settled in. And the other house, we were there for what? 15? No.
Yeah.
Something like that. I don't know.
Do you think it makes a difference if you own the house or if you just rent the house, as far as an idea of home goes?
Yeah. I guess there is a difference, because it's yours.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I guess it is a difference, but so few people out in the world own a place,
Right.
It's a small.
I wanted to there were elements of this topic which I wanted to address, which will have to come back in their own topics. One was homeownership, and what that means, and that was part of the American dream for a long time.
Right.
And then now it's become really hard for people to it's so expensive, and also people are turning everything into Airbnbs rather than selling their homes.
Right.
And then there's it goes into the whole. I actually did some research on. I'll save it for another episode. And then also I wanted to talk about homelessness, which is like another flip side of this, which we don't have time to talk about.
Yeah, that's a big. We should. That would be a great episode.
Right, which we'll come back. We'll come back to that. So, John, we began this episode with a reference to Kansas, and we'll end this episode with a reference to Kansas.
Carry on my wayward son.
So in The Wizard of Oz, Glinda the Good Witch tells Dorothy that to get home to Kansas, all she has to do is click her heels and say, "There's no place like home. There's no place like home." And so remember, whenever you're feeling lonely, all you have to do is close your eyes, click your heels, and think of home.
Yeah.
And hopefully when you get back there'll be plenty of food, fucking, and shelter. All right. Thanks for listening.
This is human number 2 signing off.
And this is human number 1. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening. And thank you to our listener, Winnie, for sending in this interesting episode topic. We finally got the right one, Winnie. I hope hopefully we answered some of your questions. And Winnie, I'm going to reach out to you and try to get your address so that we can send you an Intro to Anthro with Two Humans friendship bracelet from the Puppies Not Piranhas site on Facebook and Etsy for sending us that topic idea.
Thank you.
And also, I think I need to go back in. We need to backdate for people who have sent in copies as well, or topic ideas.
Yeah.
And we'll send them bracelets as well.
Yeah, we got to do it.
Yeah. Give us a little time, but we haven't forgot you guys. Also, don't forget to check out our sponsor, Watson and Company Socks, on Facebook or at their website, watson-co.square.site. Watson and Company socks are colorful and comfortable, and there's nothing I like more than coming home and kicking off my shoes and looking at my Watson
That's
and Company
home.
socks.
A fresh pair of socks.
Yeah. Fresh pair of Watson and Company socks. Wherever I am, that's home. All right. Thanks, everybody. We love you guys. John, I love you.
Love you too, man.
Carry on, my wayward sons and daughters.